So on the bench, we obviously have an S-100 card. This is a MORROWs Micro-STUFF MMSP2. It's a cassette interface to the S-100 bus. And looking at the docs, and a shout out to Herb Johnson for providing me the documentation. It can control 3 cassette drives. So you could have one for read, one for write, etc., one for scratch, whatever you wanted to do. Like I say, it's for controlling cassette drives for loading and saving programs and data. The date codes on the logic on it are 1976. There's some stuff, I think the earliest I saw was 19th week of 76. The board itself is copyright 76. The photos I've seen of this board have a green silk screen. Obviously this board does not have a silk screen. There's an interesting mix of sockets on the board. I don't really know if this was a production board. I mean, I just don't know. I got a good price on it. There are issues with the board. You can see up here there's a fair amount of what I believe to be corrosion and dirt. Something's happened on the board there. There's an issue down here where I think that trace is missing, has been etched away. There's been some kind of contamination perhaps. Perhaps a battery leaked in something and partly got to the board here. The board's got a small ROM on it. It's a 5204. I think that's 256 bytes of ROM. It's got the COPE code in it, which allows you to read and write. You write data to a cassette and read it back, load it into memory. It's designed for the Altair. Originally, the Altair bus. So it's way, pre the IEEE 696 bus. On voltage regulators, there's the 5 volt here. There's a plus 12 here. There's a negative 12 Zener sitting here. At least I believe that's a Zener. There's a negative 12 rail. I don't know if that's a plus or minus 12 regulator. That's now hard. It's hard to say at this point. I'm not sure. There is a Zener, I believe, down here. I don't know what power rail it's producing, but there's a dropper resistor. It looks to be a Zener. I have to go back and look in the schematic. That's a diode. I'm pretty sure that was a Zener too. I could be wrong. I don't know what voltage rails. I don't remember that the EEPROM required, but it was more than plus 5 in ground. On the board, hopefully this is coming through, there's a bunch of lowish profile. They almost look to me like they're those cheap single white TI sockets. Yeah, just like this one right here. It's a TI socket. It's most likely a single wipe. It's a cheap socket. Most likely that just weren't real reliable in my opinion. There's some white sockets here. They're a little higher profile. And then there's just pins here. Actually, there's no body. There's just the pins with that 273 plugged down into it. These are, of course, relays. What else can I say here? There's what I'm guessing to be opto-isolation down here, maybe. It's hard to say. I can't read the part number on that device. Let me take a look here, see if I can read it. 7402, 260, I don't know. I'd have to look in the schematic. Anyhow, I wanted to begin to address this mess up here and see if we can get some of that corrosion to come off. Hopefully I can find my tools here. I'm still working on organizing the shop, and things are not where they're supposed to be. For some things at the moment, I'm not seeing my Q-tips. And I don't know where they are. Well, with the magic of editing, I'll have Q-tips in a moment. And voila, Q-tips. So let's hit some of this grime down here with the Q-tip and see what'll come off, if anything. I used a little bit of water over here on this side just to see how much of this was, dirt or something, and how much of it was corrosion. Oh, it's really nasty. here. Those traces are potentially in better shape than I thought they were. Looking at it, it looked to me like these traces had been completely dissolved. And now with some of the, whatever that is, removed, they are definitely looking a little better. I'm sitting here trying to remember where my anti-static brushes are. They're up here. They're not where they're supposed to be, but they're still accessible. Let me grab one of these brushes. And I'll just try to scrub a little bit. I don't know why it's so dark down between those transistors. Some of this surface stuff is definitely broken up here. I'm getting a little bit better view down into there. So the one is still there to indicate the socket pin. So maybe this wasn't as corrosive as it seemed. It was surface contamination. But you can see that it's etched away at the tin plate here for this ground. Yeah, this is ground running around the outside edge. Coming off pin 50 over here. So I'm debating whether to remove the components on this side of the board so I can get a better clean. I don't know why I just mopped up that off the work surface. Well, compared to what we started with, you know, there's definitely a bit of etching on the tin plate, which makes me wonder if it's etched up underneath the socket here. We had this other spot over here that was suspect. I suspect that's got continuity. Not as etched as it looked. Yeah, the whole board really needs a gentle clean. And I'm not going to clean the entire board until I can get the ROM out. I want to maintain the paper level or paper cover, and I do want to image this. There is a listing of the monitor as well in the manual. I suspect I can read this on the retro chip tester. It may already be supported. If not, I suspect that I'll be able to, you know, create a profile there and read it anyhow. So we'll find out. So anyhow, I'm debating whether to put a little bit of vinegar on here and try to neutralize whatever might be on there. I almost think that's not a bad idea. If there is something there, neutralizing it wouldn't be a bad idea. Oh, excuse my reach. Apple cider vinegar is not the best choice for this, but it's what I have at the moment. I should be using white vinegar, which I don't have. I need to remember to get some. But the idea here is just to neutralize. If there has been battery acid here, is to attempt to neutralize it. That smells like vinegar. I've actually got some cleaning vinegar downstairs that would probably work well for this, honestly. Didn't really think about it till now. That lead saturate it. Oh, that smells like vinegar. I really do think I'm going to remove the components here and get a good look like up underneath this socket. I don't think anything's etched away. I can actually see traces under the board going to the pins that appear to be missing. Traces on the top. I think that's actually in better shape than I thought it was. So, oh, that smells like vinegar. Pewy. Let's get some paper towel back under here so we have a little something to absorb. Rinse some of that vinegar off. I'm disheartened at how much maybe the vinegar knocked some of the dirt loose, some of whatever that contamination was. That the brown particulates there that have come off, I'm not sure what they are. I'd really like to get the board working. It'd be an interesting board in my Altair clone. And take it all the way back to a 2K or 4K machine, 8080 processor. That initial configuration, front panel, cassette I/O, and a serial card. I've got that serial card we looked at, a year or two ago. That is an original early serial card that I did won't call it a modification because I didn't really modify anything on the card. I did a plug-in modification that plugs into a couple of sockets that allows it to do TTL level I/O, bypasses the 1488 and 1489, I believe it had on it, for RS-232 level conversion. Or maybe I added. Did I? Oh, it was the card itself was a TTL level card, and I added the 1488 and 89. I think I actually added a Max 232. I think I cheated. But so it could do regular levels. I could be wrong, but that card in this starts to get towards a really nice vintage card set. The problem here is I got this card, I consider it very inexpensive. I got it for $60. It was not listed well, as I recall, on eBay. I'm surprised. It popped up in one of my searches, and I don't think S-100 actually found the card. I could be wrong. But I remember looking at it and thinking, that's really not listed well. It's not going to pull a lot of money. And it didn't. I don't remember it having any watchers even. Anyhow, $60 plus shipping. It's here. It's mine. You and I will explore it together. I guess there's a quick introduction. That definitely has cleaned up much better. It actually looks much better there than I thought it was going to. It really looked to me like those traces had been eaten away. So I'm really not sure what the damage here, what attacked the tin plate. My time in high school, when we designed and etched our own circuit boards, we actually just tin plated them. There was no silk screen. It was very much done in the lithography work. The photographic work was done in the Photoshop. We actually had a Photoshop with an enlarger, that kind of stuff. And of course, we had a UV exposer in the electronics lab, and we used to just etch in a bucket in a sink, and then tin plate. We never, we designed some nice cards, never anything quite this intricate. That's an interesting looking spot there. While I'm yapping away here, I will see what happens with it. So, you know, we did a few boards, designed them, laid them out with, who manufactured the tape? There was specific black tape you could buy that was designed for hand laying out printed circuit boards. And, you know, we designed the layout by hand. We then taped it up by hand. I believe 2x size. Then photo reduced it in the photography lab. A little bit more corrosion there. Anyhow, I've rambled on and on. I'll hold it up here again. Hopefully you can get a better look. Like I said, date codes in the chips. I think the earliest was 19th week of 76. There might be something earlier. Relays. Trying to remember. I think this was just an extra parallel port, maybe. There was the data side for the cassette recorders and the control side for the motors, I believe is what the two here are. I could be wrong. I haven't looked at this in a little while. But again, copyright 76, G. Morrow, MORROWs Micro-STUFF, and MMSP2 Rev 4, which is interesting. It's a Rev 4 board, so I don't know what their first sold version of it was. It's interesting they soldered the brass nuts on the back here to hold them in place, to hold the regulators down. So well, there's minus 12. It's labeled coming off of this regulator. So this one must be a minus 12. 31st week of 76. I keep saying I'm done and then I'm not. I know this is an 82 S-129. Something like that. It's one of those small programmable proms. Hopefully it's in good shape. It's really hard to find unburnt ones of these. But I did spot that in the manual. You know, it was a common part back then. It is address decoding, if I remember correctly, which makes sense. Maybe it was port decoding, or maybe both. And I've left kind of a mess back here on the back of the board, but I will clean that up. Anyhow, I actually am going to stop this one here, and I'll see you in a future video.